Hey guys, this is James for InBetweenIsode number 5. So we are not quite as suave and dapper as episode number 4, but we are still here and we are still going to drink some tea. So today we are drinking a tea from White2Tea, the Hong Kong style 1990s raw cake that we have. And so kind of similar to the Bajang that we drank from last week, this is supposedly from that 1990s era. And so I have both the cakes here, and I'm going to just quickly show you guys a quick size comparison. So this is the Bajang, and this is, right here, is the white cake. So the 1990s Hong Kong style cake. So I own both. They are both white wrapper cakes, as you guys can see. Their wrappers that they're originally stored in are no longer existent. And you can tell that the Hong Kong style cake that we're drinking today, the compression is just much looser. Both these are supposedly 357 gram, kind of the standard size cakes. So you can see that the compression on the Bajang, the red mark, was just much tighter. And that's something to note. Usually what will happen is the compression will be a way to kind of control the storage. So if you're storing something in a higher humidity environment, sometimes you're going to want that extra bit of compression. So for most of us out there in the West, that extra bit of compression is probably unwanted because we tend to deal with cooler and drier climates, so the aging will simply be slower. Okay, so one interesting thing about this tea is that it's a white wrapper. The age is unknown. Exactly where it's been stored is somewhat unknown. So all these things help to contribute to kind of the uncertainty and the ambiguity of the cake, which can cause the price to be lower. So it's kind of like if you buy Nike or something like that, you're not going to get an incredible deal necessarily. The price of the bigger brand cakes is kind of predetermined, and you're going to be paying partially for the certainty of that brand. And that doesn't mean that these white wrapper cakes are necessarily great deals at all. It just means that there might be deals to be found. And I think that's something that White2Tea does a great job of, in just sort of hunting down these white label, white wrapper cakes. But anyways, enough about that, and we're going to drink some tea. So similar to the last couple episodes, this is on its third steep, and the tetsubin is nice and hot already. And so we are getting a very nice, relatively dark red liqueur. And so the leaves in this cake are pretty large. There's a little bit of stems mixed in. It's probably not the highest quality cake in terms of just raw base material, but I think the storage on it has been really nice. And one of the important things with these wetter stored or traditionally stored cakes is the drying out period. And so I think one of the really nice things about this cake is that it's been dried out really nicely, and I find very little of that kind of storage funk that you can get from other traditionally stored cakes. Like if you were to have had this cake immediately after it was taken out of the humidity, it probably would have been pretty gross. But we are having this significantly after that, which I think improves the cake, improves the smoothness, and just improves the tea in general. And so another way to do that is kind of like we talked about in the previous episode and in between episode 4, is just to break it up, store it in some air. Usually when people used to drink these cakes, they would break up the entire cake basically into loose form, and that also helps to get rid of some of that funk. Anyways, we are going to take a quick look at the liqueur, just nice up and close. So real nice deep red, and that's kind of what you would expect for these sorts of teas. It shouldn't brew up like a black as you would see from like a White Pu'erh or something like that. Anyways, cheers. So super smooth, nice, sweet. This is not a super complex taste or anything like that. you know, people always used to talk about this one adjective, camphor, and I was always, I don't even know if that's how you say it, but I was confused. I was really confused by that, and I've kind of come to identify the specific taste that people call camphor, and it's definitely in this cake. At least I definitely taste it. So I would say that I've sampled through most of White2Tea's kind of age selection, and this has been kind of like my favorite per price. I was drinking the 7582 that they recently released earlier today. You know, I like these teas. They're very different teas, but I think this is probably the better deal of the two. It sells for about $150 a cake, which is not an insignificant amount, but for a tea from the 1990s, I think it's a pretty decent bet. Alright, and we're just going to quickly sip on this. Compared to the Bajang, or the red mark from the previous episode, I would say that had more of kind of that really traditional storage still in it. It had kind of I think probably a deeper fermentation a little bit. This tea is a little bit cleaner, a little bit simpler. I would say this is probably a more friendly introduction into aged pu'erh or traditional storage rather than the Bajang from the previous episode. And so decent body, very similar flavor profile. It's lightening up just a little bit, so if I were to continue to steep this out, I'd probably add another 10 or 15 seconds to the steep time. And I am going to show you guys the dry leaf right there. And I'm actually going to pull a couple leaves out of here to show you guys the wet leaf as well. So, that is hot. So we can see that there's some nice, pretty big leaves in here. Some stems, or parts of stems. So as you can see, not the highest quality of base materials, but I would still say for a lot of these cakes from the 1990s, the extraordinary part about them isn't necessarily the really good base material. Especially if you're looking at kind of the $150 price range. It's more of the storage that can really make the tea pretty high quality. Anyways, I think that just about includes InBetweenIsode number 5. So if you have any comments, requests, things that I should wear next episode, comments on the camera work, anything else you'd like to see, we'd love to hear from you guys and just incorporate some of that stuff in. And thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.